If you'd like to see how I made this, stay tuned.
Okay, today we're going to be making the BillyFifty sling bag. It's got one strap at the back that can connect to either side depending on which way you want to wear it. You can also wear it facing front or facing back. It has this really cool little grommet hole here, so when your phone's inside the bag and all zipped up, you can still access your earphones. There's a pocket in the front, a full wide pocket, and then it's also got an internal pocket as well. This bag has foam on all sides, so it's actually quite sturdy, and you could put a tablet or whatever in there and it wouldn't get damaged because it does have foam. The finish on this one is actually a binding technique, so we'll be having fun doing that as well.
And if you'd like to see how I made this bag, stay tuned.
Now, your pattern comes, you put all your pieces together, cut them out, everything's labelled, and then on here you have a reference guide that basically just helps you remember to cut everything and have it all in order. So it just goes through what pattern pieces are here and what you've got cut, and then it says additional pattern pieces required that you need to measure and cut yourself. So there is, for instance, no pattern piece for the zip gusset foam, and for the bottom, this one, the bottom gusset foam. So you just measure those two out and cut them and stick them on. What else is there? You need to cut 42 inches by 4 inches for the strap. So I've just folded it and folded it in half, but we'll go through that in a minute. You also need to cut a little hanging loop which goes on top of the bag. And you'll need some bias binding. So you can well, that's for the inside finish of the bag. You can make your own, or I just bought this, so it's 1 inch wide when it's folded. If you open it up, it's 2 inches, and then it's 1 inch, and then we're just going to press that like that, and that'll go around the seam later on. The very first thing we're going to be working on is the front of the bag. The front is a front pocket and also has a grommet in it, which will feed the earphones through. We have our front pieces, which have been interfaced and foamed, and then we have our lining piece which has interfacing on it, and we need our zipper tape face up and our lining piece face up, and we're just going to clip them together. Then we're going to take our front piece and we're going to put it face down. I'm just going to make sure all those edges are lined up. And then using a straight stitch and a 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm just going to stitch straight down there.
And away we go. I've got my foot sitting up against, just going to zip that out of the way. Got my actual foot sitting up against the zip here. Back stitch. Now, what we want is a nice finish on both sides, so a nice top stitch, because we don't want this lining getting caught up when you open and shut the zip. So we just flip this over, so now we've got these sides, stitch through both layers, right through both. Right, that'll give us a top stitch on the back and the front. So again, increase the stitch length. A bigger stitch length gives you a nicer finish.
Back here, our zipper up. Now you have to be careful when you line this one up that when it opens up, it's going to be in line. This one, we'll just test it. Alright, so it's just going to be offset just a little bit. Now that it's all clipped in, make sure that zipper tape isn't wrinkled under there either, because you don't want to wrinkle your zip. So when that opens, it'll be nice and straight.
Okay, we're on a 2.5 stitch length, and away we go. I'm going to get to the zipper head. I'm going to leave my needle down and push my foot up, and then push the zipper head back, and then continue. Back stitch. And again, we're going to flip those two round the right way. Smooth them out. And then with a larger stitch length, decorative, let's call it a decorative stitch length, shall we? Our decorative stitch length. Because it's got the foam in it, that's going to give a really nice finish. Looks pretty cool to me.
Got my zipper jig. Sometimes this works straight away, sometimes it does not. But it's on. So I'm just going to pull that now to the center and leave it there. Now what we have to do is I'm going to just put a couple of clips here because we're going to put that grommet in now. Just hold those pieces flat. I'm going to get our press. This is a cam press, you can buy them online. I'll put the link down below later. And the piece that I've got here is the piece that cuts the hole. What we want to do is we want to find a nice spot, the center. I'm going to get my chalk. Now I already had a line ruled here from when I was doing my embroidery. So I'm just going to make sure it's straight first. I'm going to find a spot that I think's nice in the middle, which I think is there. So put these back on. And that's where we're going to be putting the grommet. And that'll start to make a little hole there for you. If it doesn't go all the way through, it doesn't matter because it has at least made an indentation, so you'll know where to cut. I'm just going to make a little hole for my scissors to get in. Okay, and now we have our grommet in. Now, this is where things are a little bit different to regular things. This is the lining. I'm going to make a mark at the top and bottom of each of these pieces. So we're taking 2 lining pieces. We do that just by folding them in half, and we're just going to make a little snip and a little snip. And then we're going to place these ones face to face. And we're going to place these ones face down on here. And then we're going to clip them all together. You want to make sure they're all flat and they all line up nicely. Now what we're going to do is we are going to baste stitch all the way around the edge. Pretty close to the edge because we want to hide it within that 1/4 inch seam allowance. But what we're doing is we're holding all these panels together. That's going to help us when we're putting everything together. Now we're going to move on to our zip pocket. So we're going to get our piece. Now when I cut my piece, I marked out where the zipper hole was going to be and the halfway point. We're going to lay that face down. And I am going, you can put this anywhere on here, but you've got to make sure, because this is tapered, you've got to make sure that the zip is going to fit. So I'm putting mine approximately 4 inches down. So there's the end. So all I need to do now is straight stitch along there.
I'm leaving my needle down when I pivot on the corners, nice and straight. Now you can rule a line where you're going to sew because you're not going to see it later on, so it helps you go nice and straight.
Now if you flip it over to the back, you'll see your stitching. What we're going to do is we're going to put our scissors in here and we're going to cut down the center of that, and then when I get to the end I'm going to cut a little V shape right into the corners but without cutting the stitches, and I'm going to do the same at the other end. Now all we need to do is push this through that hole. Now you can press that down with your fingers and then press it with the iron, and you'll have a nice space for your zip to come through. And I'm just going to move this a little bit in, and I'm going to place my zip underneath. And once I've got it in place, you can use some sticky tape double-sided tape if you need, but I'm not going to. And then once you've got it in place, you just top stitch all the way around there.
And then back and forward.
But all we're going to do now is we're going to fold that down, and we're going to carefully, that we don't get this fabric, we're just going to stitch down and around. You can put that into place if you like. Alright, so now we're just going to straight stitch to there.
I'm just using a 1/4 inch seam allowance.
Now I'm just going to chop off these little end pieces, get them out of the way, and any threads. And we have that done. Don't worry about these bits here, just leave them for now. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to start to put some of this together. So, I have my back piece and my back lining piece, which now has a zipper pocket. And I am going to mark the center of the top and the bottom of each of these pieces. And we do that literally just by folding in half and make a small snip on the corner, small snip at the top, and same for this piece. Now these will be really useful later on. It'll make more difficult to get the marks later when it's a bit more bulky. So if you do it now, it's done. Now we're just going to clip these together. All the way around. Just a couple to hold it. Make sure it's nice and flat, because it does have the foam in the middle. Tuck that in there. We'll get that out and squish it out later. Now that piece is ready, and all I'm going to do is, with a really long stitch, I'm just going to base stitch right around the edge to hold those pieces together. Now I'm going to put on my zipper head first, because otherwise I always forget. That'll do. So we're going to start with one side. We're going to put the zipper gusset piece up. We're going to put this in the middle. I'm going to clip it on. I always do this just to make sure I don't get a wiggly tape. And then we're going to take one of the outside gusset pieces that's been interfaced and foamed, and we're going to put that down on top, making sure we've measured the same. We've got it at the start Okay, then we're just going to stitch all the way down along there.
And get to the zipper head. Leave my needle down, move the zipper head back. And away we go again. All the way to the end. Stitch forward and back. And again, I want a top stitching on both sides. So fold it all the way over. And then with our decorative stitch, all the way down as a top stitch. And this got foam in it as well, so again it'll look really cool. Just make sure you're keeping it flat on both sides. And back stitch.
Now I am going to pull that a little bit forward because I'm worried it's going to fall off. Alright, and then we're going to do the same thing again. Now, because my fabric is directional, I am just going to make sure I've got it round the right way. Okay, so this one up, this one up. Okay, and then this one is going to go face down. And again, we're just going to stitch straight down there.
Back stitch and away we go. When you get to the zipper head, you just stop, needle down, put your foot up and move that back and keep going. Back stitch when you get to the end, turn it and flip it over. Our decorative stitch length, making sure everything's nice and flat. Back stitch and away you go.
We are now going to do the edge. So, and yes, it is the same size. So we're going to put the edge of all that together, and then we're going to put that face down, and then this time, and this is the only time this will happen, we're going to sew 1/2 inch. So we're going to measure from here, 1/2 inch down, and so straight across.
Our shorter stitch length. Now just go slowly when you get to the zip. I like to go back over the zip and then all the way through.
Trim off that excess.
Together. So now we've got this. And back stitch.
And now we're going to match up the other end. So we're going to lay that there. And lay that one on top. Make sure that zipper head is out of the way. Now if you want to make sure that that just stays where it's supposed to stay, you can just pop a couple of clips a bit further down. Okay. And then 1/2 inch from here, straight down again.
1/2 inch from the edge. Over the zip twice and back stitch.
Trim off that excess.
Just squash anything that needs to be out of the way without distorting the shape that you're trying to sew here. Oops. Oops, I just put my finger in the thread. Beautiful.
So now I'm just going to clip because I want to base the edges of this as well. So I'm just going to clip around the edge. Make sure it's sitting nice and flat. And the other side. Okay, and again you want to be stitching within that 1/4 inch seam allowance.
We'll clean up some of these. Put in the way. These little wonderful. Okay, just a really long stitch right on the edge. Keeping everything flat, and away we go. This just helps when we do the construction later on. And the other side. Doesn't take that long. You don't have to do this, but I think in the long run it's going to help you. It helps me. Okay, just keeping everything straight again. Do people like watching sewing videos? I don't even know. Do people watch them just to learn, or do they watch them to pass the time? I watch them to pass the time sometimes. Not for anything in particular, just like seeing what people are doing.
Now we have our gusset piece made. Now we have our strap, which is 42 inches by 4 inches, and all I've done is I've folded my two sides into the center and then folded again, and now I'm just going to stitch both sides all the way down.
Now we're going to flip it over and do the other side. If you have trouble stitching in a straight line, don't look at the needle. Line your piece of work up with a line on your foot or plate and then follow that. It's much easier and you'll get a much better finish. Okay, there we have it.
Strap is done. Our strap connectors are 2 inches wide by 3 inches long, and all I've done is folded into the center and stitched down both sides, and then I'm going to put our hardware on like that, and then I'm going to stitch as close up against that hardware as I can, and I'm going to do that for both pieces. With my lighter, I'll get my strap out of the way. Just burn off any edges. Now we're going to make the strap. So our strap is just 2 pieces. That's our outside, inside. So we want our 2 outsides facing together. And we're just going to stitch all the way around, leaving the top open.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting at the wider end. And I'm going to leave that top part open. back stitch.
And now the part that I very much dislike, which is, where's my, turning this out the right way. Now I'm going to just use a paintbrush, or the end of a paintbrush, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to try and peel these. First I'm going to open it. Put a bit of air in there. And then I'm going to try and poke this end part inside out, like that. And then I'm going to put the top of that paintbrush in there. Hopefully I don't rip anything. It's just getting it started that's the hard part. Okay, and now we're going to take this across to the iron, and we're just going to press that down into shape. Now the side with the padding is going to be the side that goes on your shoulder, so the side that goes down. I'm just going to stitch, top stitch all the way around the edge using a nice long stitch.
So we're stitching on the side without the foam right now. And then at the end, I'm going to leave the foot down, leave the needle down, and pivot again. And then we're just going to go straight back up the other line again. This is a little bit decorative and a little bit just keeping things fancy. Okay. Now I'm going to trim the top of that so it's even. Get rid of any loose threads. Okay, that looks good. And then
What we need to do is we need to get our strap that we made, and we are going to put our hardware on. So I want it to go up, other way, up and down. And this part here, I'm just going to cinch the end of that strap first. And then I'm going to stitch that into place. So now I've got the piece that has the edge on it. And I'm going to thread that on there. And then this one I'm going to go up and down. There you have it. That's all nice and neat. Now, we take the other end of that and we get our strap, and we are going to lay it over the top of our strap, straight down the center, and on the side that doesn't have the foam, we are going to stitch along the same line of stitching that we stitched before.
So we're stitching on the side without the foam right now. And then at the end, I'm going to leave the foot down, leave the needle down, and pivot again, and then we're just going to go straight back up the other line again. This is a little bit decorative and a little bit just keeping things fancy.
Okay, so now our strap is finished. We have our strap attached to our shoulder piece. Looks fantastic. So now we've got our pieces. So we've got our front, we've got our gusset, and we've got our back piece. Now, I've just clipped them on where I want them. And what I'm going to do is I am going to just put a quick line of stitching there, there, and there to hold everything in spot. Now, I put this about, it's about the top of that is about 3 inches from the bottom. You can put them anywhere. I don't like to put them too close to the corner. That's my little dog you can hear. Just make sure they are even wherever you put them. Now they are all stitched into place. Now what we need to do is find the top and bottom of the gusset, and the way we're going to do that is just line up the edges of the seams there, and then we are going to take our scissors and we're just going to make a little notch, not a big notch, just a little notch, and here as well. And that'll just remind us where the top and bottom is. Now, you've already got your notches, the top and bottom on these ones. And this is where we decide which way do we want our zip to open. So, turn it in the wrong way. And I want my zip to open that way. I'm going to flip this whole thing over. I'm going to find that top marking. And I'm going to clip that together. I'm going to put one clip either side. And then I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to find my center. And then I am going to work all the way around and put clips. I like to just press it like that. It helps keep This is the reason I like to base stitch, because when it comes to this, you only have to worry about sticking two pieces together. And I like to put lots of clips because I don't like it to move. You can cut that tape off there if you like. I cut mine off later. Now, we will be stitching a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. We don't miss any part, we just go all the way around.
We're almost done. I'm going to start on the bottom in the middle and I'm going to stand it up. So where those clips are, they've made a bend, and that'll be just about a 1/4 inch. And away we go. Just take it easy. I like to keep mine standing up as I go around the corner. And to the side. Around the next corner. And when you get to the end, just back stitch.
Now we're back to this piece, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So all we're going to do is, this time we're going to fold up our strap. Try and keep it out of the way. Find our centers. And let's make sure our zip is open. Okay, and once you've got all those pieces on and your zip is open, you can stitch all the way around there.
Standing up. Now, this top section where the strap is, I'm just going to stitch over that one more time, just for a little bit of added strength. Easy. And now we're going to trim off these bits here. These bits here.
Now the binding. If you wanted to, you could make this bias yourself to match. But I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to start at the bottom. And I'm just going to put it over the seam like that and clip it in place. Now if your bias is cut on the bias, it'll be a little bit stretchy, so I like to pull it a little bit tight so it doesn't wrinkle and carry on when we're sewing it on. But this is just another way to, just a different style. I mean, we could have done our linings separately, but I think this is a fun way for a backpack, and also a backpack that may be used by a guy. Gives just a little bit of a more masculine finish. Although if this was all pink on the inside, it wouldn't be very masculine, would it? That's just something different. Running out of clips. I don't really like to cut down the bulk here because I want to be able to get some, I want to be able to pinch around to stick this on. If I cut that down too much, there'd be nothing there to grab hold of. And it does get a bit bulky across the top here where the handle is, or the strap, where the strap is connected at the top. So just be aware of that. Now if your machine isn't going to stitch through all of this, you can clip this on and then hand finish it. Like that, that's okay too. Give you something to do if you want to sit in front of the telly. I'll put a couple of those on back to front. Okay, now when I get to the end here, I'm just going to measure a little bit past where we started. I'm just going to fold that edge under, put it over the top. And that is it. So now all we need to do is stitch. When I do mine, I stitch kind of in the center, but get as close to the edge as you can.
And I push my fingers up against the bias to keep it in there. The other side. This is the last line of stitching though. So let's get in under there, push it in. Okay. Back stitch the start and away we go. And we're going to back stitch, and we are done.
Now we're at the fun part. We're finished. Let's turn it out. Just squish it on through. Oh God. There you have it. But I'm just going to clip that onto there.
Put a phone in there, and our earphones can stick out the top. We've got our middle pocket, and we have an internal zipper pocket as well. And it's all finished off really beautifully. It's really quite, like, it sits really nice. It's quite hard. because of all the foam that's in it, it'll sit up and it'll protect if you've got a tablet or an e-reader or something in there. You could throw this around and it would be absolutely fine. So this one's made out of cotton canvas and foam.
Make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this page and hit the little bell so you'll be notified every time a new video is released.